Hey, yo, check this out. This is Flavor Flav, and you are watching Dontae's Boxing Nation, baby.
The following program may contain language of an adult nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Welcome to Dontae's Boxing Nation show here on alltalkradio.net. Now here's your host, Dontae.
What's going on, guys? alltalkradio.net, Dontae's Boxing Nation, and welcome to the show. We have a great show today, guys. In the studio with me, as always, is my co-host, writer and author Norrin Radical.
Yes, y'all.
And on the phones with us, these two guys, they have some of the best YouTube channels out there. Go ahead and check them out. As always, my man Egosworld1 and Arab King is in the building, all right? Or on the phone in the building. So anyway, guys, first things first, on a serious note, I want to go ahead and give my respects to Emmanuel Augustus. A lot of people, if you haven't heard about this recent news, he just apparently just got shot in the back of the head, and he's on life support right now. All right, so our condolences goes out to him. Get better, champ. For those of you guys who don't know, Floyd Mayweather said that was his toughest fight that he's ever had in his career. So, get better, champ. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the actual boxing news. Now, because everyone has been talking about this recently, and sometimes I wonder why this is big news because of the source it comes from, which is ESPN, we're going to go ahead and talk about this, right, y'all?
For sure.
We're going to go ahead and talk about this first take situation. Let me go ahead and give you guys a brief summary if you guys haven't heard about it. Basically, Stephen A. Smith and Floyd Mayweather, they exchanged words. And it really started with Stephen A. Smith saying that, if Floyd Mayweather ends up fighting against Amir Khan as opposed to fighting someone like Miguel Cotto or a rematch with Canelo, then he will go on national television and say that his man, Floyd Mayweather, is ducking. Floyd Mayweather, he came back and he said, listen, I don't give a fuck what Stephen A. Smith thinks. I ain't never seen him dribble a basketball. I ain't never seen him catch a football. I ain't never seen him box. So I really don't give a damn what he thinks. And then he said, a lot of people act like basketball geniuses, boxing geniuses, but the truth is all they do is talk about athletes. They're just critics, all right? So that is the summary, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, I want to talk about, first of all, the credibility that Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, they even have when it comes to talking about boxing, okay? So I'll go ahead and start with my man in the studio. Now, Norrin, what do you think about their credibility? Do they have any relevant, any relevance to what they're saying?
First off, just to reiterate our respects to Emmanuel Augustus Burton, get better well, champ. We send out positive healing vibes through the cosmos, for real. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
It happens too often, you know what I mean, across the board in professional sports where we see athletes, cut down too early or prematurely. And particularly with boxers, we've been seeing it, over the last few years, over the last few decades or whatever, with, numerous cases we could cite, from Gotti to Vernon Forrest, and it's just a tragedy. So, just get well soon, champ. Now, and that's what's relevant. Now to Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, their credibility as boxing analysts. No, they basically don't have any. Not as far as boxing goes. I mean, they're TV personalities. They talk sports. They've been doing it for a long while now. But they're not aficionados, obviously, when it comes to the sport of boxing. I think, if I recall, it's hard for me to recall, the timeline of drama. But I know that they were heavily, they were heavily critical of Floyd when he was going through the thing with one of his baby mothers or whatever. They were heavily critical. I know Mayweather had made the comments about Chris Brown, Rihanna, O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown, there was all this visual evidence. And there's never any visual evidence with, these women that are accusing him, of these similar type of acts. And, they were, calling him all type of, he's heinous and, basically all this type of derogatory critiques that they were throwing at him. So I think from Mayweather's point of view, I think he's still a little salty about that. And that's why he took a little bit, he was a little bit hypersensitive about, Stephen A's comments. And I think that's why he replied and responded back the way he did. Nevertheless, I think he was totally accurate in what he said, Mayweather. I mean, Stephen A is, he's never been in the ring. He ain't laced up no gloves. And, again, you can never discount the history, the sordid quagmire, that is the history of Mayweather Pacquiao. You cannot discount that. We can't discount the numerous times that Floyd tried to make this fight happen.
Absolutely.
And again, as I always say, the constant or consistent impediment of Bob Arum, which obviously left a bad taste in the mouth of Mayweather and his team, and that's why they kind of said fuck, we're just moving on. You know what I mean? So now when we get to this juncture now at 2014, where Floyd only has 2 fights left. I get Floyd's attitude still basically remains the same. Floyd is Mayweather. He does not succumb to the pressure. He's not the type to succumb to peer pressure. What I mean? He doesn't give a fuck what
what anybody says.
Exactly. This guy's saying he's gonna do what he feels is in his best interest. Also in I should say peripherally, he's also in consideration of his fans. He's aware of what people want to see. But at the same time, he's going to do what's best. And working with Bob Arum simply has not been the best thing or the best experiences for Mayweather's, in his experience throughout his career. So, all these things apply. All these things you got to factor in when you're talking about this Mayweather-Pacquiao fight happening. I want to see the fight happen just so it can, be done with. You know what I mean? I just want to, just to give the decaf less to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're always going to have something to say about Mayweather at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, whatever. But it gives them less to say. That's really why I want to see the fight. I have absolutely no doubt that, Floyd will obviously be victorious. But like I said, you got to factor in the whole history when you're talking about Mayweather-Pacquiao. So that is what, when we look at things like First Take, which is basically, it's pop culture, it's fast, it's disposable. Exactly. It's whatever's hot, whatever's trendy right now, you know what I mean? That's the bandwagon they're jumping on. So, they're not talking about, the whole history of how everything has transpired in its proper context. So Stephen A comes out with the comment and says, if he fights Amir Khan and he doesn't fight, as a matter of fact, he said if he doesn't fight Canelo or Cotto or Pacquiao, if he doesn't fight Canelo or Cotto and he doesn't fight Pacquiao, then he's ducking. And like I said, that's just is just inaccurate.
Which that alone makes him look like a casual fan.
Of
because,
course.
Like I said, we already know that Floyd Mayweather, he dominated both of them fighters.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but we also know that if he fights anyone in a rematch, we know what Floyd Mayweather is capable of doing when he has already studied you previously. And I bet you anything, Stephen don't even know that Canelo and Cotto are talking about fighting in May. That's what I mean when I say he don't follow the sport.
Absolutely
He only follows Mayweather and Pacquiao. Like I said before, he know just as much about boxing as I know about tennis. That's what it is. So Ego,
I know the Williams sisters.
Yeah, that's it. And the Agassi dude. I know Agassi. Yeah, at least I know his name. So I'm a pro. I'm a pro at tennis now. You know what I mean? So anyway, Ego, what do you think, man?
40 love.
Was he just stirring up stuff or what? Is it relevant what he said or what, Ego?
Let's start off. I'll start off by saying I want to see the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, just like Norrin said, just to put it to rest. To bed.
Exactly, bro.
As far as First Take, when it comes to boxing, I'm not talking about any other sports, but when it comes to boxing, I never rely on them guys for accurate boxing news. You notice, you could tell their level of experience with boxing based on the topics they bring up.
Mm-hmm.
You never hear them talk about Felix Verdejo or Keith Thurman or Jermaine Taylor's win. It's always just the big league guys that, you know what I mean, we don't even need to hear about. They already have, like Mayweather already has a ton of press. Canelo, Cotto, those dudes, they've been in the sport for so long, they already have attention. You know what I mean? And they give them even more attention, probably for ratings or whatnot. So I don't consider those dudes boxing gurus. They don't know the sport. They don't ever like talk about the Terrence Crawfords or, you know what I mean, the people who look impressive and things like that. So I think he was just saying whatever he felt based on ratings. It happened to be stupid to me because you're saying fighting a new guy who a lot of people think has the height and speed to trouble Mayweather. You're saying if he fights him, then he's a chicken or whatever you said, but he can fight Cotto again or Canelo. Like, what do those fights mean? And Canelo, and see, this I know he doesn't know the sport because Canelo just said in the interview that he has no interest in a Mayweather rematch. So that goes to show how much you don't know the sport.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Canelo don't even want a rematch. And just like Marquez, them dudes don't want a rematch. So why are you saying he needs to fight Canelo when the guy you're suggesting doesn't even want to fight Mayweather in a rematch because we already seen what time it is. He could say Mayweather ran or whatever, but he looked horrible in that fight. And then he has since looked decent. You know what I mean? He looked good against Angulo, good against Edeslani Lauren spots. So I don't know. I just don't I take it with a grain of salt what they say on First Take.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just say this real quick. It's like Ego just said. It's like sometimes, you know, just because you see these guys on TV, you know, and again, I'm respecting their experience as broadcast analysts, but it's like you said, you know, when you really look at what he's saying, like you said, it's just so, you know what I mean, it's just buffoonery. Like you said, a rematch with Canelo or Cotto, like, I'm just, you know, just quoting what he says, but like you said, that shit actually makes no fucking sense. It's like, you know, Floyd totally dominated both of those guys in spectacular wins, you know, A+ wins, you know, vintage Floyd.
And then, you know what the funny thing is?
Huh?
I just want to add one last thing.
For sure.
When they were talking about Mayweather rematching Maidana, people are like, oh, that's weak, cherry pick. But now if he rematches Cotto or Canelo,
It's supposed to be good.
supposedly that's the greatest thing ever.
Buffoonery.
Also, keep in mind, guys, I vividly remember Stephen A. Smith when he had Oscar De La Hoya on the show long time ago when Oscar was still relevant. And I remember this was when Winky Wright was pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. And, you know, a lot of people wanted to see that fight. As a boxing fan, you want to see Oscar fight the best.
No doubt.
He's fighting at 154. Winky's at 154. Winky just beat Mosley twice. Stephen A. Smith says to Oscar De La Hoya, please don't ever fight Winky. Don't ever fight Winky, Oscar, because that would be a terrible, boring fight. You know? I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you a boxing fan or are you a cheerleader? You know? and that's exactly the casual type fan stuff I'm talking about.
Pom-poms.
You don't say no shit like that. You know, so yeah, and before I let you talk, AK, let me just also say this because I wanted to respond. I made a video in response to what Stephen A. Smith said and what Floyd Mayweather said. Now, you guys remember Floyd Mayweather, he basically said, you know, Stephen A., he ain't never boxed, he ain't never played football and all this kind of stuff like that. Floyd Mayweather, what he was basically saying was you have no right to criticize, to say anything about me if you've never done it before. Now, what I was saying in defense of boxing fans is I made an analogy. Some people, they understood it. They thought it made sense. And some people, they said, well, you know, maybe it wasn't the appropriate, analogy. But let me explain. Okay, the analogy I made was if I have a plate of food, if I go to a restaurant, and a chef serves me some food, I could easily tell you if that food is too salty, it has no flavor. I don't have to be a chef to tell you that. If I'm watching American Idol, I don't have to be a professional singer to tell you if somebody is a horrible singer or a good singer, right? But a lot of people, they looked at it as saying, some people I should say, they was like, well, boxing, you got to understand, some people, they can't relate to how it feels to be in this situation or that situation. I understand that part of the argument. But what Floyd Mayweather said, he wasn't saying that. Floyd Mayweather, he made it sound like, and I'm sure maybe Floyd didn't mean to make it sound that way, but he made it sound like he was talking to anyone that even criticized if a fighter is good, if a fighter is bad, if a fighter is the best, if a fighter is weak, right? So the point that I'm making is when it comes to, let's say, for example, when Floyd Mayweather was fighting against Maidana, right? Now, you got those dumbass decafs that'll say something like, oh, he was running. Oh, he's scared. Floyd Mayweather's coward. He was running. Now, those are the people I would say they ain't never been in the ring. They can't relate to what someone is doing in the ring. It's easy for you, if you've never boxed before, to say what's running, who's a coward, right? So I could relate to people when they saying, yeah, you can't relate to a boxer when he's going through, stuff like that. But in terms of just saying who's good, who's not good, anybody can say something like that. And that's the whole point that I was making, okay? So Mayweather, what he said is different than what we are actually disagreeing about, okay, if that makes sense. All right, so AK, so what did you think about this whole exchange between Steven and Floyd?
First of all, that was a great analogy. I mean, if I don't know how to throw a jab, that don't mean I can't look at a fighter and be like, oh, he has a great jab.
Yeah.
If I don't know how to throw a jab, I can still look at a fighter and be like, oh, he got a good jab.
Yeah.
And as far as first take with Roger Mayweather boys, they don't know shit about boxing.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
come on, man. Like Ego said, you never heard them talk about Andre Ward, Rigondeaux. If you know boxing, why you don't talk about other fights? All they talk about is Manny Pacquiao, Mayweather. Manny Pacquiao, Mayweather the whole time. And you never watch First Take and you be like, oh, man, yeah, they point out something great. Like, as far as, what something great that Floyd Mayweather does or Manny Pacquiao. So they just talking, they bring NBA players in and they give their opinions as a casual fan, not a hardcore boxing fan.
Absolutely.
And as far as, him saying that if Floyd Mayweather fights Amir Khan, he's going to come out and say that Floyd Mayweather is ducking Manny Pacquiao. First of all, Freddie Roach stated that Manny Pacquiao next fight will be at 140.
There you go.
So you got to talk to Freddie Roach
point.
and tell him, huh?
No, my bad.
Excellent.
Excellent point. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, you got to talk to Freddie Roach and tell him to move Manny Pacquiao back up to 147. Second of all, let's say Amir Khan fights Kell Brook and beats Kell Brook. You still think if he fights Floyd Mayweather or Floyd Mayweather ducking Manny Pacquiao, and that's not a good fight? Come on, man. I think Amir Khan will give Floyd Mayweather more problems than a Canelo rematch. Did you see Canelo versus Lara? Come on, did he learn anything? I think that he only saw the fight between Canelo and Angulo, and he thinks, oh, Canelo is a beast now. He learned from the Floyd Mayweather fight, whatever.
Please.
And like I said, they don't know shit about boxing. But as far as Jordan, what you was talking about early on, and the video that you made about Floyd Mayweather saying if you don't box, you can't criticize a fighter. I mean, like I was talking to you earlier. If you boxed before and you watch boxing, you will respect the sweet science more, because you know how hard it is to do the stuff that Floyd Mayweather does and the stuff that Rigondeaux and Andre Ward does.
Absolutely.
But more, you will respect the sweet science more than just a regular boxing fan, because you've been in their shoes and you know how hard it is to do the stuff that they do and that they mastered. But a dumb fighter like a Brandon Rios, if a knowledgeable boxing fan will, he will know more about boxing than a Brandon Rios. But, a guy like, a smart boxer, of course, he will have the edge over a regular boxing fan. He will know more about boxing than just a regular boxing fan.
No doubt about it. And like I said, man, it's great to be Pacquiao. It's great to be Pacquiao in a sport like this that is so damn biased, because we know that 80%, probably 70% of all boxing fans, unfortunately, they are casual fans, right? So the thing with Manny Pacquiao, what's so crazy is, even when Manny Pacquiao wasn't calling out Floyd Mayweather, even when Manny Pacquiao was making excuses, they were still blaming this on Floyd Mayweather, right? Even when Bob Arum would come out and say, we're not fighting for this reason, Pacquiao will say, I'm not fighting for this reason. I don't want to take a test. I want more than this money, this and that. All of this stuff they said, and people would still turn around and say, Floyd Mayweather is a coward, not because they believe this, but because it makes them feel better when it comes to their emotions attached to the sport or attached to Floyd Mayweather. So that's what it really comes down to. But, we're going to do something right now that Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, they never do. And that's talk some real damn boxing. So let's get into it and talk about some damn topics that Stephen A. Smith and them don't really know about. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and start with the fights that's coming on this weekend. Like I said before, guys, I truly believe that Walters versus Donaire, that's an excellent matchup. That should have been the main event. I don't know why Rubio versus Golovkin is the main event. I mean, of course, we know that they love Golovkin, and he's the new hope. But the real fight is Walters versus Donaire. What you think about the fight, Norrin?
Walters, the Axeman.
The Axeman.
The Axeman coming to chop. Axeman versus the Flash. I mean, it's a great matchup. You know what I mean? It's really it's a great matchup for both guys. It's the type of fight that, like you said, us as hardcore boxing fans, we really get up for. What I'm saying, it's perfect for both guys' stages of their careers right now. You know what I mean? Donaire putting it back together. Walters on the up. Is just a great fight. Now, how do I see the fight playing out? I'm actually leaning towards Walters. And that's because Donaire, again, this is one of the things that I really focus in on with a lot of boxers is the psychological state that boxers come into the ring with. And I think Donaire, he didn't look great in the last Darchinian fight either, let alone what happened in the Rigondeaux fight. And I think he's still a little bit unraveled, being knocked from that perch where he was perceived as a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. I think he's still feeling some of those psychological ramifications. I think going into the ring, Walters might be able to exploit some of those, some of that little psychological residual vestiges that's still lingering in the psyche of Donaire. So I'm leaning towards Walters, but it's just a great fight. Because like I said, at this stage of both guys' careers, this is the fight that you want to see, that these guys have. You don't want to see Donaire fighting another Darchinian, a guy he's fought 10 million fucking times, you know what I mean? Or a guy that's over the hill, and pretending like it's such a tough, such a tough fight, cliche cherry pick or whatever. You know what I mean? You want to see Walters stepping up, you know what I mean, and fighting a marquee guy. So, it's just a great fight. You know what I mean? I can't wait.
I can't wait either.
Throw.
How you see the fight playing out, AK?
Yeah, if Donaire comes to box, because he can't box. Everybody's not a ring dyer. Not anybody gonna outbox him like that. But if he comes in there and boxes, he could pull it off. But if he goes in there, the same guy that like he showed in his last fight, missing some mental. I think he's gonna lose to Walter, and I'm actually leaning more to Walter, but I don't really know Walter like that because I only saw one of his fights, and that was his last fight. And he was actually in the early rounds, he was getting caught a lot by the Darchinian, but he adjusted and knocked him out later on. So for me, I'm leaning more to Walter, but if Donaire goes in there with the right mental attitude, and he goes in there to box, he could pull it off.
Yeah. It's a very competitive fight. How you see it, Ego?
Well, first of all, I'm from the Bay Area, so Nonito, I like Nonito. He's from the Bay as well. It's truly a 50-50 fight. I really want to see it. I don't know who I'm going to go with, but based on momentum, you definitely have to lead towards Nicholas Walters because he dispatched of Vic Darchinian far more impressive than Nonito did in the rematch. Nonito, keep in mind, knocked out Darchinian. It was a highlight reel knockout in their first fight. And in the rematch, he looked sluggish, and Darchinian was getting off on Nonito until the later rounds. I think he was even ahead on the scorecard. So I was more impressed with looking at the mutual opponent, how, like Arab said, how Walters made the adjustment. So it's really a 50-50 fight. Nonito's done more, fought for bigger names, been in the spotlight more. But I think, like Norrin said, it's really how much does Nonito want to be a fighter at this point. Psychologically, that's the biggest level of intrigue for me, is because I don't know if he's with Robert Garcia. He looked suspect in most of his recent performance. Let's be real, Rigo's a soul snatcher. He's the body snatcher to me. And he took something. He had him moonwalking in the 12th. And ever since then, Nonito doesn't look the same. In his last fight with Siempre Way, it looked like he was looking for a way out when he got that cut. He was like, he didn't want to even continue fighting. And then the Darchinian, as I said earlier, the rematch, he looked suspect, where this is a guy you already knocked out and made easy work of, and you're struggling with him. And to me, Darchinian was better at the lighter weight division when he was fighting. So how you dispatch of the better version of Vic Darchinian. Vic Darchinian, I think he fought a dude right before Nonito Gallo, and he was getting rocked. They were rocking each other. And who the fuck is Gallo? You know what I'm saying? Like that's nobody. And you went life or death with him. So the momentum's definitely favoring the Axeman right now.
That's the best way to put it, Ego. The momentum favors Walters right now. Now, one thing I will say that I'm impressed with, or surprised maybe I should say, with Donaire, is I thought when he moved up from 122 to 126, he would be at a power disadvantage. Now, from what I've seen, even in the Simply Vidyeka fight, it looks to me like he did carry the power up. So that's one thing, and people always say one of the last things to go is your power. So that does make him dangerous. But, I hear a lot of people saying that Donaire, he hasn't looked good in his recent fights. As far as I'm concerned, the vast majority of his fights, he has not looked good. He has not looked impressive. And what I mean is he's always looked vulnerable in almost all of his fights. Outside of Montiel, outside of him knocking out Montiel in two rounds and him knocking out Vic Darchinian the first time, which even in that fight he got caught a lot. So I'm basing it on his defense when I say he didn't look that good. He allowed almost every opponent he faced to make the fight competitive. I cannot remember a fight that Donaire just completely dominated, where he did some type of Mayweather versus Guerrero or some type of Guillermo Rigo versus Donaire. I never really seen a dominant performance like that when it comes to Donaire, because he lacks the defense. And once again, that's the most important thing. So this is a close fight. Now, I was doing a lot of searching a couple nights ago, really trying to find another Walters fight, and I finally found one. I found, I forgot the guy's name, but he fought a Mexican fighter who was a good fighter. He was a power puncher. He had won his last 11 to 12 fights, so he had a 12-fight winning streak, and it was supposed to be a competitive fight. And let me tell you, Walters looked very, very impressive. And these are the type of dominant performances I'm talking about that I've never really seen Donaire in. Walters went in there, he dominated this fighter. This fighter, he was a little bit of a boxer, but he was more aggressive. And Walters just walked right through him. He showed a lot of intelligence in the ring, coming forward, but not getting hit with anything. And then he eventually knocked this guy out. So, this is a competitive fight because, Donaire, the one thing he has, going for him is his experience. And of course, Walters, he's new when it comes to the lights. But if the lights don't affect Walters, you might have to slightly lean towards him. Just like Eagle said, the momentum is in his favor. Another thing I learned by watching one of Walters' interviews is I found out that he's been boxing since he was 6. So he has a serious amateur pedigree. I don't know if it matches an American, amateur pedigree, but he does have an amateur pedigree. So that's how I see that fight. I slightly lean towards Walters, but I wouldn't be surprised if Walters outboxes Donaire and gets lazy and sleeps for a minute and then gets caught with something. It's very possible. Okay? So go ahead.
Oh, I just had to add something. I thought you were finished.
I'm done. Go ahead.
I was just going to add one thing. I think Donaire suffers from Pacquiao syndrome. If you remember, where Pacquiao knows his money punch, and that's what he was gunning for. And I think we all know Donaire has like one of the most vicious left hooks in the game. Him and probably Danny Garcia are the two that come to mind. And I think he got kind of complacent. Like he let his power do the talking, kind of got away from the boxing, and he was looking for that money punch in a lot of his fights, like Jeffrey Matabula, and stuff. And then, of course, Jeffrey Matabula is like 6 foot tall, so that made it more challenging. But Matabula got knocked out by Kiko Martinez. So, I mean, I just feel like he got complacent and lazy and started looking for that power. He did it with Rigondeaux, too.
Yeah. And no, that's a good point. Me personally, I just think we all know there are levels in the sport of boxing. And you see a fighter look great at a certain level. And once they reach that level to where the competition really advances, they either adjust or then they start to look exposed. And me personally, I think that Donaire, he's a good fighter, but he is a flawed fighter. You know, he's one of them type of fighters that's always going to most likely be, trailing on the scorecards and then eventually catching you with something. Or maybe it's a back and forth, and then he may catch you with something. But I don't believe that he can like adjust when it comes to an elite opponent, and that's his problem. We've seen this with Donaire, and I might as well talk about it. A lot of fans, because like I said, this stuff is based on emotion and pride when it comes to a lot of fans. So, when I talk about Canelo, you get people that get so upset, they get so emotional, their feelings are so hurt. They want to cry because they don't want to hear that this guy, Canelo, that they love, he has flaws. And the reason why I'm bringing up Canelo because I'm going to relate it to Donaire. Now, what's so funny is people, they start saying, oh, you're just hating on Canelo. Oh, you don't like Canelo and so on and so forth. But what's so funny is I said the exact same things about Donaire years ago before he fought against Guillermo Rigo. I said, this guy is going to lose to Guillermo Rigo. He lacks the defense. He gets hit with every different kind of punch in the book. Imagine if he's in there with a sharpshooter. And they said, oh, you just hate Filipinos. You hate Donaire. You hate her. And all of this and all that. All this emotional talk. And that's exactly what took place when he got in the ring with Guillermo Rigo. So, that's my take on the whole situation. The truth hurts, but we're going to keep giving it to you. So, you know.
Now, another
Take
thing,
that,
though,
take that.
Donaire.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, another thing, Donaire after the Rigondeaux fight, like Rigondeaux, almost took his soul away. So when he fought Darchinian for the rematch after the Rigondeaux loss, he was almost like seeing Rigondeaux in front of him because Darchinian was a southpaw, and we all thought he was gonna make easy work of him. And yeah, it was, it was back and forth, and that's because I think that was kind of because of Rigondeaux, because Rigondeaux took his confidence away. So this fight is gonna mean a lot because we're gonna see where Donaire is, where his confidence is, and where he's at mentally. And the winner, he will set up. We could see the winner of this fight Lomachenko next, and or Rigondeaux or somebody like that. So it's gonna be interesting.
It is. You're right. It's a little tournament. It hasn't been announced as a tournament, but there's a little bit of a tournament that's brewing right now. And now, one thing I will give Donaire credit for is the fact that he is seeming to be willing to fight some of the best fighters out there. And I think that has a lot to do with once you already get beat, you almost feel like there's nothing to lose now, because he was hesitant to fight Rigo before. There were a lot of fighters. I mean, if you look at even Roy Jones, a little off the subject, but once Roy Jones lost, he was willing to fight everybody. We've seen this with a lot of fighters. You lose, you come out of that shell, now you're willing to fight more people. So, I would love to see all of those fights. I would definitely love to see the winner of this fight against Lomachenko. That would definitely, catapult someone into top 5 pound for pound as far as I'm concerned. Maybe top 10, top 5, somewhere in the top 10 for sure, though. Okay, so 40 minutes into the hour, and we're going to go ahead and get into the main event, the fake main event, which is Golovkin versus Marco Antonio Rubio. Now, let me start this one off and say this. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at this fight as a complete dud. It may be. It may not be. It may be competitive to where Golovkin looks exposed, Because remember, people have to understand, even if a person even if Golovkin knocks someone out in the second round, he could still get exposed in the process, like his last fight. You know, I thought he was just slightly exposed, even though it was only 2 rounds, because he got caught with too many punches. And that fighter that he fought wasn't that good of a fighter. So with me saying that, a lot of people probably don't remember this, but Marco Antonio Rubio, he fought an undefeated Canadian fighter at the time by the name of David Lemieux. You know, and David Lemieux, believe it or not, he had a style that was very similar to Gennady Golovkin's style. And, you know, for those of you guys who play Fight Night, I related to that because when you have to beat Frost at the end, the strategy, the way Marco Rubio beat David Lemieux is he basically danced around. He gave up a couple rounds. The first 4 or 5 rounds, he just kind of picked away at David Lemieux, right? And it looked like he was giving away the fight. But later on, he started to touch him a little bit more. Then he started to touch him a little bit more. Next thing you know, he knocks down David Lemieux, right? And next thing you know, he's dominating, and he completely beats David. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen for sure, but I'm just giving you guys a little food for thought because it's possible that that can actually transpire in a fight like this because of the fact that Golovkin is a flat-footed fighter and he does not have the best defense. So Rubio, he could put a performance on like that, and he could just end up getting knocked out, or he can end up winning. So, I mean, what do you think? I know me and you talked, Norrin, earlier, and you said you didn't really give him too much of a shot. What do you think about the fight?
Dud. Nah, I see it playing out pretty much how you outlined it, how you laid it out. I see Rubio, I said boxing, you know, utilizing movement, you know, staying away from Golovkin's power, of course, making it look competitive, actually winning some rounds, and then getting caught. But I don't see him getting caught a la Donaire, as we were referencing, you know, with one huge shot, you know, the one huge left hook. Yeah, exactly. I see, you know, Golovkin wearing him down, you know, a battle of attrition, wearing him down with the pressure, eventually getting to him, cutting off the ring, getting to him on the ropes, you know, and start working the body, come upstairs, you know, and winning, looking spectacular, you know what I mean? So, again, as opposed to Nick Walters and Nonito Donaire, I'm not so up for this fight. So I definitely do see Golovkin going out there and getting the job done. I expect Marco Antonio Rubio to put on a decent and satisfactory performance, but I don't expect them to come out victorious. And I do see Golovkin getting the KO. I mean, somewhere towards the late middle rounds, 7, 8.
And by the way, I agree with you. I don't think I'd pick someone, but yeah, I agree with you. You know,
see the fights that I can draw a conclusion, you know, the other fights that I'm not, you know what I mean? I love the fights that are 50-50 that you don't, you know what I mean? Like you said, you know what I mean? What's going to factor in? Is this guy's psychological baggage going to, you know, outweigh, you know, this guy's momentum? You know what I mean? As we, like I said, just discussed. But the fights, you know, like you said, that you can pretty much determine the outcome, they're the fights I ain't getting up for. So yeah. I want to see Golovkin again. Come on, man. Now, you know what I'm saying? He's Triple G. He's Triple G. You know what I mean? He's the hype man. He's you know what I mean? G. You know, at least I want to see him in there with a Kid Quillen, with a Kid Chocolate, Peter Quillen. You know what I mean? At the very least, you know. Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. I ain't too excited, but I do see Golovkin being victorious.
Yeah, and just one more thing before I let you guys talk. See, this is another thing. I give props to Paul Williams and Sergio Martinez when nobody would fight these guys. Nobody wanted to fight these guys at one point. They said, fuck it, we're going to fight each other, right? So right now, there are a lot of people who don't want to fight Golovkin. We know that there's a lot of people who don't want to fight Andre Ward. So why don't we go ahead and have them fight against each other? Turn my damn phone off. It's ringing right now.
Oh, shit.
But, you know, we got to keep it real. You know? So,
how else would you keep it?
Man. So anyway, that's what I'm saying. Golovkin, you ain't got no date. Ward ain't got no date. Make a damn blind date. It won't be a blind date.
Nice.
It'll be a real date.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah, so that's what it is. So how you see the fight playing out, Ego? Is this fight relevant? What do you think about this fight, man?
Personally, I'm okay with it being the main event. I think Triple G, one thing I do like about Triple G is he's active. You know what I mean? A lot of people can't say they're fighting as many times a year as he's fighting. His pops died earlier this year. He took a little bit of bereavement leave, but then he got right back to it, waxed Daniel Gill, and he's already back in another fight. So that's one thing I respect about Triple G, is he's at least staying active and moving through the ranks. And then just the location, StubHub, you got a lot of Hispanics, and they're going to turn out for an event like this. So
no doubt.
I think it's a good it's a good look for because casuals as well as diehard boxing fans could embrace and enjoy it. And then they're going to be in for a treat with Nonito Donaire versus Walters as well. They just don't know it because they probably don't know who Walters is. You know what I mean? They may not even know who Donaire is, but they're going to learn. I wouldn't say I would pull an upset or anything like that. I would definitely favor a Triple G. But the one thing I do like about this is I always like when I see a fighter fight various styles. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, what do you like Mayweather? Because he has it. Some people will let them tell it. They'll say he only fights flat-footed brawlers and stuff. But if you look at his career, which is long and longer than most guys, barring like Marquez, Pacquiao, and Bernard Hopkins or something like that, Roy Jones, he's been fighting for a while, and I've seen him with various styles. I've seen him deal with speed. You guys, some of the people who haven't been watching boxing, they might not remember the guy do the fights and stuff, but he fought the different styles. So I like that about Triple G because this is a different style than Daniel Gill was kind of herky-jerky. Matthew Macklin was that. Neither guy had like that Mexican grit and grind to possibly get it done with power. And this is really going to be a test and show me what Triple G's chin's like, and then also like his willpower, and then overall what his KO power is truly like. Because I don't think Rubio is going to go. I think he's going to go out on his shield like a lot of the great Mexican fighters do. I don't think he'll just back down. You're going to have to knock him out. And Chavez Jr. didn't knock him out, so it'll be interesting to see, since he's been in there with, like you said, David Lemieux, who has power. He's been in there with Chavez Jr. If them dudes didn't knock him out, and then Triple G makes it look easy work, then this dude is special.
Excellent point. Excellent points. How do you see it playing out, AK?
Yeah, well, I got Golovkin all the way. I do give Rubio a puncher's chance, but of course, man, you know, he has 50 knockouts. So, you know, if he lands with the right punch, he can hurt Golovkin. But at the end of the day, I think Golovkin has a good chin. He showed that against Stevenson. You know, I seen Stevenson catch him with good left hooks, and he took him without buckling. So I think he's going to maybe knock out Rubio late. I think he's going to break him down, then knock him out later on the fight.
Yeah, and just for the record, I agree with all you guys. Like I said, even though Rubio, he did look good outboxing David Lemieux, I still see him eventually possibly getting caught. Golovkin has a great jab, so he's not just an aggressive fighter. He's an aggressive fighter with a great jab, and we know a good jab is very important in the sport of boxing. So I'm picking Golovkin to possibly catch him later on, accumulation, and possibly stop him. Now, I just wanted to respond to what Eagle said, or add on to what Eagle said when he was talking about, you know, Mayweather and people saying that Mayweather fights flat-footed fighters. What's so funny about that is if you think about it, you take Muhammad Ali. What type of fighters did he you know, fight? George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston. These were all flat-footed fighters. Ken Norton. They were all flat-footed fighters. None of them had foot movement. None of them had a jab. None of them were southpaws, right? And this is exactly what people say you need to be to beat Floyd Mayweather. Oh, to beat Floyd Mayweather, you need this quick, flashy southpaw. Oh, you need to have a jab. Oh, you need to have foot movement. Oh, you need to have this and that. Muhammad Ali's opponents, they didn't have that. You see what I'm saying?
No, I see exactly what you're saying. Now, listen, will I hurt my own credibility if I admit that I'm extremely biased when it comes to Muhammad Ali?
No, because you've been honest. No, but see, you're supposed to be honest with it.
Listen, that's neither here nor there. It's just what it is. Hey, listen, Ali is a heavyweight. You're never going to see a heavyweight move like that. So that's what was available. Yeah, Floyd has faced all styles. Floyd, you know what I mean? That's one of the things that makes him one of the best to ever do it. Excuse me. And going back to what Ego says also, to add on, that is one of the things that I do like about Gennady Golovkin, Triple G, is that, yeah, he is, facing a variety of styles as well. So that is definitely a check mark for Triple G. I just want to see, as much hype, as a lot of people, a lot of casuals, some even, borderline casual hardcore, a lot of that, the praise that they're lauding on him already, I think it's time for him to step up, though. You know what I mean? But I do definitely give him all the credit in the world for, like I said, facing, like I said, a variety of styles. But, and again, my peeve with Golovkin, again, is, you want to call out, guys lighter than you on a lower weight division, but you're not willing to step up, or you're willing to step up against certain fighters and not against others. So we already know. So, that's, treading the double standard line.
The double standard line.
That we are so aware of.
All day, every day.
For sure.
And like I said, Golovkin, I was giving him a lot of props, and I made a lot of videos, excuse me, I made a lot of videos previously where I said Golovkin has done everything to deserve a fight against Sergio Martinez, okay? He was completely on the incline, right? And then all of a sudden while he was going up, he just stopped at a certain plateau, and he's just right there, like neutral right now, right? And that's what I don't understand. I gave him credit for fighting fighters like Curtis Stevens. And the last dude he fought that Sergio Martinez fought. Who was it again?
Who was it?
The one he knocked out in 2 rounds.
Daniel Gill, right?
No.
Who was
it? The Irish cat.
Macklin.
Right.
Macklin, right? Yeah, I gave him credit for knocking out Macklin because Sergio Martinez had just beat Macklin, took him 10 rounds. Golovkin did it in 2 rounds, right? Golovkin is a good fighter, man.
Absolutely.
So why don't you show us how good you really are? That is what we want to see. Go up. I know you want to be pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. So who's one of the closest pound for pound fighters in the world closest to your division right now? It is Andre Ward. I mean, you can say that you can go all the way down to welterweight, but I don't think a middleweight who's saying that he can fight at light heavyweight is going to go all the way down to welterweight and fight Floyd Mayweather.
And honestly, I think that there is just better names at 160 that he could be fighting than Marco Antonio Rubio.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? I just think there's better fights out there for him.
No doubt.
Definitely. You know what I mean?
No doubt. Who you got? You got what? Peter Quillen, which I think he'll beat. Who else is what's German? What's the German dude? Man, I'm bad with names right now, man. What's the German dude?
You got Martin Murray, Felix Sturm.
Yeah, Felix Sturm. Arthur Abraham. That's the one. Even though I think he just got a close fight. I would love to see him get back into the American mix instead of doing all those fights overseas. I would love to see Arthur Abraham against Triple G.
I agree.
That would be
absolutely agree.
What about your boy Jermaine Taylor? You got a shot?
Nope.
Oh, that'd be. He said nope. No, I like to see it. Hey man, look, Taylor will be in. Taylor is in. He be in a win-win situation, man. Bro. I mean, speaking of Jermaine Taylor, we might as well give him props, man. Another cat. I don't know how old he is. He got to be pushing. Well, yeah, however old he in his late 30s. It seemed like he old because he been.
Been through some wars.
He's been through some wars. But you got to give him props, man. Shouts out to Jermaine Taylor. He regained the title against Solomon. No one gave him a chance to win that fight. So, he looked like vintage Jermaine Taylor. That right hand was popping. And Solomon, with his awkward ass, he couldn't get away from that right hand. And, of course, he injured his leg or something like that at the end. But shots goes out to Jermaine Taylor.
Absolutely.
And if you guys...
Dontae, I'll tell you one thing, man.
Huh?
If Taylor fights Golovkin, he said he will never lose to a white boy. Man, he gonna lose to that white boy.
He gonna lose.
What are you talking
about? He'll probably lose to that white boy. I gotta agree with AK on that one. That's a white boy. He take care of him.
Didn't he lose to a few white boys already?
Yeah, Pavlik. That's why it didn't make sense for Jermaine Taylor to even say that. You making yourself look foolish. You done already got your ass handed to you by a couple of them. So why even say that?
What is that? Retro hindsight?
Yeah.
That's what that's called, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much.
Jermaine Taylor had a draw with Winky Wright, beat Bernard Hopkins twice, and lost to every white boy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
One of the most rare situations in boxing where you done lost to all the white boys and beat all the black guys. You know,
Unheard of. Unheard of.
Unheard of. That's like Oscar De La Hoya saying, you know, I ain't gonna never lose to another black fighter. You know, that's pretty much like that. You know, so leave it alone, Jermaine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Controversy sells.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what y'all think of Danny Garcia ducking his mandatory?
Oh, good postal. Because he knew Victor was about to go postal on his ass. That Victor Postal, Postal ain't no joke, man. I seen that cat fight. Man. That dude ain't no joke. He can box. He has power. He's intelligent. That's why when I first seen that fight, I said, oh, this would be a great fight. You guys hear the closing music right now. We're going to let everybody get their thoughts, man. Go ahead, Norrin.
That's what that's the thing. Why? You know, you're big on a guy. You know, I like Swift. You know, he's a guy that, you know, there's a lot of ups to Swift. I like a lot of things about him, but you know he seems really reluctant, like you said, to get in there with the stiff comp. You know what I mean? After such a brilliant fight, you know, with Matisse. Yeah. You know what I mean? And now it's like, you know, you're constantly, you know, regressing. You're in a state of, you know, you're de-evolving. You're going backwards. What the fuck? That's not what the sport is about. The sport is about progression. You know, keep it moving forward. So, you know, that's disappointing.
Yeah, this ain't freeze tag, and his ass been frozen for a while. You know, what you guys got any last words before we close out? Ego AK.
Yeah, well, he said, you know. Yeah, go ahead, Ego.
No, go.
No, you good, man. Go ahead.
There y'all go.
I was just about to say, I agree. I agree with everything. I mean, the reason he's getting flack is Salka. You weren't even really technically supposed to fight Mauricio Herrera based on, you know what I mean? There's other guys at the time. Cream Mayfield was off win. He hadn't been beat at the time.
Exactly.
And then you picked the guy, instead of Cream Mayfield, you picked the guy that Mayfield beat.
Exactly. Herrera.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, we gave him credit in slack because he had a tough schedule leading up to that. But then you claimed to win 8 rounds to 4, and you didn't look good in the Herrera fight. I think Herrera beat him. And then on top of that, you fight Rod Salka from lighter division.
Yeah.
It's just the whole, like Norrin said, the whole progression was bad.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to backtrack as a lineal champ.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what you got?
Go ahead. Just real quick, AK. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you know, he said he's not going to fight Postal because he don't know him. Well, don't tell me you know Salka. You know,
okay.
Yeah, don't tell me you know that motherfucker and you don't know Postal. So you already know
that?
He's a fake champion, and we already know what it is.
That's what it is,
doubt,
man.
no
That's
doubt.
what it is. All right, guys. Well, I want to say once again, man, thanks for joining the show. Thanks to my special guest, as always, Egosworld, a.k.a. Arab King, and my man in the studio right here, Norrin Radical.
Gather round, party people.
That's what it is. We're going to see y'all next week.
Big up, Emmanuel Augustus. Get better, champ.